Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar, today's webinar on IEEE's engagement at IEEE at COP29. We'll get into a little bit more of what that all means and what that is shortly. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Karen McCabe. I'm a senior director at the IEEE working in the Standards Association, but I also have the honor to help coordinate IEEE's presence and activities in various UN activities, including at the UN COP29 and other COP conferences. So again, such a pleasure to be here today. Today, we will hear from 4 esteemed speakers who were at COP29 in Baku to hear about their experiences, their perspectives, any information, new learnings, findings, and insights that they have gathered from being at COP29, and also, through the lens of IEEE and the engineering profession, and what IEEE and engineers and allied professionals can do to help address climate change. So I'm going to go to the next slide here. So our agenda today is we'll do some welcoming and opening remarks, which we're in the middle of. I'll give a very brief view on what the UNFCCC COP is. We'll provide a little bit of some information about what we did at COP29, and then we'll go to our speakers to get their reflections and insights, and then go into some discussion and, of course, a Q&A from our audience members, which is very important, and then we'll make some concluding remarks. Briefly, to introduce our speakers for today, we have Saifur Rahman, as many of us are aware. He was our 2023 IEEE president. He is the founding director of the Advanced Research Institute at Virginia Tech. He's a life fellow of IEEE and the IEEE Millennium Medal Award winner. He is the founding editor-in-chief of the IEEE Electrification Magazine and the IEEE Transactions on Sustainable Energy, has published over 160 journal papers, and has made over 800 conferences and invited presentations. He was also chair of the U.S. National Science Foundation Advisory Committee on International Science and Engineering, and has a PhD in electrical engineering from Virginia Tech. We are also joined by Wei-Jen Lee. He's been involved in IEEE standards for many years, such as including those in arc flash and other standards related to climate and sustainability. He's been involved in research on utility deregulation, renewable energy, arc flash hazards, electrical safety, smart grid, artificial intelligence for load, price, and wind capacity forecasting, among a range of other topics in technology areas that are so critical to sustainability and what we face in climate today. He's also a fellow of IEEE, a fellow of the Asia Pacific AI Industry Alliance, and member of the National Academy of Inventors and registered professional engineer at the state of Texas. And we have Babu Chamala is a senior scientist at the Sandia National Laboratories. He has led Energy Storage Technology and Systems Department and Program Manager for Grid Energy Storage at the lab. He's a fellow of IEEE AAAS and the National Academy of Inventors, and he's a distinguished lecturer of IEEE Power and Energy Society. He was also elected to the U.S. National Academy of Engineering this year in 2024. And last but not least, we are also pleased to be joined by an IEEE young professional. Sneha Satish Hegde is a scientific researcher and a passionate IEEE volunteer. As many of us may be aware, the young professionals, and we'll hear more about this coming up, have been very involved in the climate and sustainability space, making some wonderful connections for IEEE and getting youth involved in these topics. She is chair of the IEEE DEIS Women in Engineering, partnership lead at IEEE YP Young Professional Climate and Sustainability Task Force, and vice chair at the IEEE Computer Society SYP. She specializes in HVDC systems and eco-friendly materials, driving sustainable energy solutions through her work in volunteer leadership. So we have, as I noted, a very esteemed panel here that can provide not only insights and their perspectives from being at COP29, but also through their work and their experiences can really help provide a level of insight and perspective that I think will help inform us, but also what IEEE is and can be doing more in the space. So as I noted, I just want to set the context a little bit. Some of us here may not be very familiar with COP and the UNFCCC. I know it's a bunch of initials, and although we're IEEE and we like a lot of acronyms, this is sort of an interesting new set. So COP, C-O-P, really stands for the Conference of Parties, and parties here is defined as member states or countries. So this is a big conference, if you will, that's held every year under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. That's where the UNFCCC comes in. And basically, this is a convention that was formed about 29 or so years ago. So you'll see the numbers like COP26, COP29. That's really noting the session of COP. So as of this year, there were 29 sessions of the Conferences of Parties. And this is really the main decision-making body of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Many of us have heard about the Paris Agreement that was put in place in 2015. And this is where countries are coming together and are negotiating on an array of topics related to climate change. I think this year, if you were following COP29, a lot of the topic was around financing, how the developed parts of the world should be helped contributing to the underdeveloped parts of the world that are being impacted by climate change. It addresses so many issues. It runs probably for about a 2+ week period. But in addition to the country negotiations, there are wonderful opportunities through what we call observer status, which IEEE has, to participate in these conferences so that we can provide expertise and perspective outside of the member country participation. So IEEE does have official observer status in the UNFCCC, which it lets us get delegates, if you will. We get a quota. It's not a big quota, but we do get a quota where we can officially participate in the COP conferences. A COP usually has two zones, if you will, and that's what they call them. One is a blue zone, and that's where the countries are participating, but also where organizations like NGOs like IEEE can participate in our official status as an observer status. Then there's the green zone, which is organized by the host country of a COP conference. And this is a little bit more open, where many people can participate. They showcase their solutions. There's many events running parallel to the COP conference itself. So it's quite an intense experience, but it does provide a wonderful opportunity for IEEE to also raise awareness about itself. Its work in the climate space helps elevate our profile and the technical communities that we have among government bodies and policymakers. And then it helps us also make connections for potential relationships and for people to get involved in IEEE on the various topics of climate and sustainability. So COP29, very quickly here, was held in Baku, Azerbaijan from the 11th to the 22nd of November. Every COP has a theme. This one was Solidarity for a Green World. Saifur was our head of delegation for the IEEE, where he spoke in 5 sessions, and he'll be sharing some of those insights, but here is just sort of a quick list of them. I think one of the main outputs of this COP conference was an agreement calling for developed countries to deliver $300 billion per year to developing countries by 2035 to help reduce greenhouse emissions. But there are many other things that are being addressed when we look at the targets and carbon credits and things of that nature. All COPs have thematic days. Here you see the list of the COP29 thematic days. As you can see, it's an array of topics addressing finance, investment, energy, relief and recovery. They did have a thematic day on science, technology, innovation, addressing human development, children, education, food, water, agriculture, urbanization, transport, tourism, as well as even getting into specific communities like indigenous people and looking at gender equality as well as biodiversity. So more to come on that, but again, every COP has an array of thematic days, and we have some efforts for COP30, which will be in Brazil, and that maybe we can gather the engineering community and have sort of a tech engineering kind of day, but more to come on that. So with that, we are going to switch gears here and get into the session discussion. And where we're going to start is have each of our speakers share their insights and their perspectives for about 5 or 6 minutes each, what they walked away from COP29, what they were, experienced, what they learned, what they heard. So with that, I'm just going to stop sharing and bring up Saifur's slides. So bear with me while I do that. Okay. Pardon me. It's always a challenge. I was just. There we go. Okay. Does everyone see my slides? Just as a double check here.
Not yet.
Not yet.
We see your files.
Oh, okay. Let's have to. My apologies. Let me go back to share. Okay, now do we see my slides?
Good. Thank you.
Oh, sorry about that. My apologies. Okay, so Saifur, over to you. Just let me know when you want me to advance the slides.
Thank you very much, Karen. I appreciate it. Welcome, everybody. I will show some pictures about what we did and then very briefly tell you where we are going for COP30 in Brazil. Next slide. So just to prove that I was there. I was there. This is on the right-hand side is the COP logo, and people stand there, take pictures, and then share on Facebook and all that kind of stuff. The point is IEEE, and I was wearing IEEE jacket, by the way. Let's show the world that, yes, we are IEEE. So next slide. So Karen listed the 5 events I spoke at. One is very interesting, organized by all Federation of Engineering Organizations. On the first day I was there, 11th of November. Focusing on climate change mitigation adaptation in small island states. They're the ones who will suffer the first and suffer the most. What can we do? We talk about mitigation, talk about adaptation, talk about putting barriers. Some smart agriculture was discussed there. So point I'm trying to make is the face we wanted to show at this meeting was IEEE, Society of Technologists, how we can advance technology for humanity in the context of climate change. So it's all technology-driven discussion. That's number one. Number two, next one is an event organized by, next slide, yes. This is very interesting. This is green talent development for young people in the global south. This is a group in India primarily, and the Global Carbon Council was the host, where we talked about where we, IEEE, believe technology can be bottom up, meaning smart agriculture, financing small enterprises, and so on and so forth. So again, the focus was how young people can take ownership of this enterprise and be the force on the ground. Why I say that? IEEE had the Smart Village program. We are very active in Africa, for example, and we are not just giving them technology ideas, but creating entrepreneurs on the field. They are the ones who will develop business plans so that the ideas that we start will last a long time. That is the involving young people in the global south. Next slide, please. Here, this is interesting. This is where I think Sneha was there. UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs had a side event, and I spoke for IEEE. This is interregional dialogue. Global, IEEE has 10 regions, for example. How we can bring to the attention of people in Samoa what is happening in Caribbean, for example. So this is the discussion that happened. And many people spoke about what are the possibilities and how I said IEEE can play a role in this discussion. Next slide. This is the skills pledge. This is done by IRENA, International Renewable Energy Agency, and they create materials, teaching materials, small videos to promote renewables in developing countries. I spoke about IEEE's Tri-Engineering panel, where we provide free content to educate young people in many parts of the world. That was the one with IRENA. Next one. This was very effective. I was invited by the ITU, International Telecommunication Union, to take part in their digital or green digital action plan, which is focusing on how to provide digital access globally, so which can help in promoting climate change or climate mitigation solutions. And my focus was, yes, it's good to give digital access, but unless you have power, you cannot charge your phone. So we have to be careful as a technologist, step by step. And that was very well received among the people that were present. It's very high level, mostly ambassadors, ministers. I see here IEC, other 2 standards organizations were there. And large companies were present, like Huawei were present and a few others. So my role was, again, how IEEE can provide technology solutions to address climate change. Next slide. So this is my focus, what we do. We, IEEE, provide clean tech solutions for climate sustainability. Clean tech solutions including solar, storage, Babu will talk about this, storage, advanced technology, even small nuclear, then hydrogen and so on. We talked about those in that context. Next slide. So this is our flagship program, climate change program for IEEE. At the bottom of the screen is the website, climate-change.ieee.org. A lot of stuff is there already, papers, case studies, conferences. If when you get a chance, please look at this website to get to know more about how IEEE is enabling innovation and technology solutions for the benefit of mankind. Next slide. So as I finish up, again, my email address is here, website is here if you want to know more. Just to tell you what we are looking forward for the next year. We met with the higher delegate from the Brazilian delegation in COP29. As you know, Brazil will be the host of COP30. And I asked him this question, and Wei-Jen was there at that meeting, how we can help. And the answer was, let's talk about a theme on technology, theme in this conference. Why is that important? As you know, COP30 will be in Belém, which is northern Brazil, focusing on indigenous communities. That's the focus. How we can help communities which are not well served yet. And I talked with him about the Smart Village program. He showed a lot of interest. He's, by the way, an IEEE member. And that told us we have a good path forward. I also know people in CEPEL, the Brazilian National Power Company, and I hope to work with them to get our name loud and center in terms of IEEE's presence and IEEE's ability to add value to focusing on improving life for indigenous communities globally. Thank you, Karen. Thanks for the time.
Okay, thank you so much, Saifur. So just as a reminder, as we go along, we will have a Q&A session at the end, but if you have any comments or questions, you want to keep track of them, this kindly asks you that you put them into the chat. So with that, we're going to go over to Wei-Jen, who also was participating under the UNCET at COP29. So please let us know your perspectives or insights from your experiences there.
Hi, good morning, everybody. And yes, I'll be very happy to share my experience for me to attend the COP29 and some observations over there. This is my second time to attend the COP in the COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, and this is in Baku, Azerbaijan. And yes, it's a consistency that on the topics, it's on the finance and adaptation side. Because at that time in Egypt, we're talking about $100 billion. And this year, the price tag go up to the $300 billion. However, on this one here, achieving this goal remain a challenge because basically, okay, well, on one hand is on the developed country, how can they come up with $300 billion? Then on the other side is how those developing countries are using that $300 billion to improve the situations. So they basically we need a concrete goal, and which is IEEE can play is on the technology side, because the science can discover all the phenomena, and then basically some situation over there. However, it requires technology to help to basically talk about the climate change mitigation and adaptations. Then the other one is we talk a lot about is the fossil fuel transition. As you know, a lot of countries still rely on fossil fuels, and ask them to break away from fossil fuel, move to the renewable energy, although it's an ideal case. However, that includes a lot of complex issues, such as on the finance, the PPA agreement, and then also from the system reliability and the sustainability, not as a resilience point of view. So on that way, how can we develop the plan from the IEEE, from the technology plan point of view? How can we repurpose or retrofit the current fossil fuel power plant and then move toward to a low carbon emission generation futures? And then, of course, you can see here, this year, it is hosted by Azerbaijan, and the host country by itself is very reliant on the fossil fuel, renewable. So that is basically some kinds of dynamic play over there. And then, of course, you can look at it from the positive side. UNFCCC would like to use this opportunity to draw the attention on the fossil fuel, that the impact on the cities and how much will cost to clean it up. Because I stay in the so quote unquote white city inside Baku, and then that was used to be an oil field. So the country used a lot of effort to clean up, and I don't know how much they have spent, and then so that to pollute the area is relatively easy. Okay, I don't say it's easy. It's kind of in the process when you try to develop the oil field and the fossil fuel extraction. However, it would take a lot of effort to clean it up. And then, so I look at it, this is more like an example that how we develop a holistic plan and then consider a circular economy. So when you try to look at it, basically on the technology side, and then we also have to look at the entire life cycles. And of course, everybody has a different agenda over there. So you see the divergence in leadership and the participations. So on this way here, I think that basically from the IEEE point of view, that technology talk. So we should provide some feasible technology and easy to understand explanation for the people to accept and adopt the technologies. And for the COP 30, as Karen mentioned, and Saifur also mentioned that is basically from the IEEE point of view, or basically from the smart village. Then we have activity in the South America, in Honduras, from the IES and the ISV. So when I talk to the Brazilian people, they focus on the forest and the Amazon forest, and the other one is on the indigenous people. So that would be a two important theme in the next year's COP. And the other one is the Tariq and the Saifur, that they are working with the local industry, local government, and plus in the COP 31 in Australia, they try to get it together to have a technology day. Because during the COP, participate in the COP, I see a lot of people talk about the problem, talk about the phenomena, talk about the science. However, on the technology side, they are rather abstract. They jump to the renewable energy. They jump to basically some of the technology that the people are implementing right now. However, they forget about the transition. So from the IEEE point of view, I think the transition is a very important aspect for our research. Yeah, this is my 2 cents. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Wei-Jen. So now we're going to go over to Sneha. Please let us know your observations and perspectives.
Thank you, Karen. Hello, everyone. Good morning. So this has been my second COP, but the last year's COP, I was mostly in the green zone. So I was just going over all the, as you said, there are so many companies. And as a youth, I think it's very interesting for you to get in touch with all the industry people who are there if you're looking for a job. So I feel that that's what the green zone is about, to making connections, network. It's mostly like the IEEE conference or anything you have. But Blue Zone is very much different, and I've seen my colleagues last year, and at the end of the second week, everyone were exhausting because it's, and especially the COP in Dubai was really huge. It was around 70,000 people, and it was really hard navigating everything that is going on. So this is my first COP, so I consider it as my first COP since it was in the Blue Zone. And we arrived there on the energy day. So the topic was youth and energy. The topic was revolving around that. So we had a lot of involvements as IEEE young professionals that was going on. So we had a session with so this preparation for the COP, it was not just directly at the Baku. We have been working with the international agencies. For example, international energy agencies. They had pre-COP session with the COP presidency since the beginning of the year. And they had made it a point that they invite all the youth constituencies, and IEEE young professionals were also part of this pre-COP meeting. So these were closed door meetings where they had only the presidencies from the previous presidencies from Glasgow, Dubai, and the current Baku presidency, and all the head of the states who were there. And it's a great opportunity, I feel, that they are right now giving importance for the youth people in the room. And for us, I feel that getting to know those numbers or all the facts that is going on firsthand from the head of the state, it's kind of eye-opening. So all the discussion that is happening over there. So when we talk about or listen to $1 trillion economy and stuff, so those numbers might shock, but when people are really talking about that in the room, so you feel that, okay, this is possible, and it is the source is available, and it's just about how you distribute it to the people and how that can be facilitated with the help of everyone who's available in the room, how you can make it possible. And that's how you plan throughout the year, right? And there were instances where IEEE young professionals were the only youth constituency to be involved in these kind of pre-COP meetings. And I feel that it's a very great opportunity. And what I feel as what I've noticed as an IEEE young professional is that we have been finding it hard to deliver this message to the youth of IEEE, that why this topic is important and why is it important to get involved. There has been instances where I've been reaching out to the people personally, that there is this high-level meeting going on, which is taking place in Paris, but people are like, oh, I might be busy, and why should I even go to this meeting? So I still feel that they don't understand what does it give being part of this high-level meetings, or how can they get involved. So we are still trying to break that bubble that everything is equally important, and IEEE young professional is somehow bridging the gap between the innovation that we are doing as engineers, and you can also be part of that policy side of things. So we are slowly trying to push the people that it is very important for you to be part of these discussions, not just part, maybe tomorrow you can take a lead in framing these policy frameworks. So that is what this discussion was all around about. And international agencies, they somehow facilitated involving the youth people and the youth speakers. But again, as I mentioned earlier, when we had this discussion a few days back, the age was limited to 30. And I told them that how IEEE is not limiting it to 30, but as I said, when we talk about this climate issue, it is not just related to environmental issue that we have. There is issue with the social justice, the finance, and the education. There's so many things that is involved. So we cannot just talk about climate changes. The discussion that we are doing at COP, it is not only related to renewable energy. There's so many other things going on. So many people are getting affected, indigenous voices. So it was not just about, I just realized that, wow, it is impossible that you concentrate on all the topics. So you really need to navigate properly. What exactly do you want to contribute to? And again, you know that few batches we don't get into all the negotiations room, but you need to figure out what is important for you and you need to be there. But just getting this overview of what is happening is was very important, and I feel that it is very important for others to know as well in IEEE, because we have our strength is technology again, IEEE, and which other youth constituencies don't have. We are not just talking about solutions here. We are working as engineers in our companies, in our academias, in our labs. So we are working on the ground and we know what we are talking about, what the solutions that we are providing. So that is what makes us very different compared to the other youth constituency. And yeah, I feel that more IEEE young professionals or the IEEE people need to take part in these kind of discussions in the coming days.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I know I was at COP 28 in Dubai. It's a lot to navigate.
Yeah.
So Babu, please share with us your insights, perspectives, and things you walked away from being at COP 29.
Good morning. I attended COP29 as an observer as part of a delegation called the UN Council of Engineers for Energy Transition. This is a group of about 50 engineers from across the world, representing diverse background, technical backgrounds, electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, power systems people, and some policy people with broad interest in energy transition and what engineering can do to support the UN Executive Office. That's the primary role of our organization. And it's sponsored by UNIDO, UN Industry Development Organization, and Sustainable Development Solution Network. This is, again, affiliated UN. So we met at COP. This is my second time at COP. I, along with Wei-Jen, are a few of the IEEE people at this meeting. And our role is, primarily to help the UN, UNIDO, and the Executive Office on things that matter for them as they look at taking positions and getting a sense of, providing a technical basis for the discussions. And as part of our work, last year, we issued 6 technical briefs, and these included things on coal transition, carbon capture, and other things. And all the people who have done the briefs, we had panel sessions supported by UNIDO at the COP. I mean, for example, we had a panel session on navigating coal transition in Asia. So the discussion was, Asia significantly has coal assets. How do you transition from coal to cleaner burning fuels? And as part of that, I participated in developing the technical brief on the coal transition and shared the lessons from North American power systems people who actually had gone through the early transition, coal to natural gas, over the last 20 plus years. So what are those lessons and how we can probably help provide the lessons learned, take it to the Asia, for example. That's one topic we had a good discussion. And one of the interesting things that I came out of the COP is, there was a pledge from the COP on global energy storage, and this pledge sets an ambitious goal of 1,500 gigawatts of energy storage by 2030, and also enhancing the grid infrastructure by adding or upgrading at least 80 million kilometers of grids by 2040. These are ambitious goals. If you need to reach the climate targets, we need to have those kind of targets. And the question is, discussions have been around how do you achieve those and what are the engineering aspects of achieving those goals. So UNIDO hosted a seat panel on addressing this pledge particularly. And I and Wei-Jen participated in this panel on looking at what are the challenges for reaching the 15 gigawatts of energy storage by 2030. What are the lessons learned from countries where storage is being deployed very quickly, and what are the challenges that we have to get there? That's one of the topics we discussed, both technical and policy issues, and then to upgrade the grid infrastructure to support decarbonization what are the challenges? So those are the broad themes that I came out. I think, the pledge is important. It's non-binding, but that shows the ambition.
Great. Thank you so much. So with that, I'm going to have all of our panelists come back, and we're going to get into some discussions based on some questions I have for each of you. Let's give us a few moments here. So Saifur, if you're still with us, I was going to start with you.
I'm here.
Okay, great. So I know you mentioned you have participated in a few COP conferences. So what stood out to you about COP29 and our engagement there? I mean, we started going in, I think, COP26. Now we're up to COP29, have plans for COP30. How do you see that sort of transition, our presence there, and things that have kind of evolved, have come about at the COP conferences?
Thank you. I've been to COP27 in Egypt, 28 in Dubai, 29 in Baku this time. The difference between the three, I've been there in person. I think there's better awareness of IEEE as an organization who can play an active role in this business. When I said, well, I've been to many of these events, side events at like the UK Embassy, UK Pavilion, US Pavilion, and a few others. When I talk about I'm IEEE, from IEEE, they get it, which is different. This is the education part. Then they take interest as to what IEEE can do. I was at the UK Pavilion. There was a presentation on data centers. And I talked about Virginia with a large data center in the world. And they said, what is IEEE talking about this? And then, Karen, this lady, Tina, asked you this question. So awareness is good, it's happening. We can do even more, as I said, for COP30, if we can engage people early on at the ground level, that helps. For example, I was in touch with Azer Energy for many months now, and they had a big pavilion in the green zone, for example. And I talked over there with their Azer Energy science director, for example. So my point is, let us use our sections network in countries like Brazil, in this case, and build awareness. IEEE, what is IEEE? How can we help? How can we be a part of the solution? So I think that education is getting some traction now.
Sounds great. So I'm going to switch over to Sneha here. I mean, it's great with the young professionals as an IEEE YP, and also yourself as a scientific researcher and leading Region 8's climate and sustainability portfolio. Tell us a little bit more about the young professionals' efforts in climate and sustainability, and how that's kind of interacting or intersecting, I should say, with the COP conference.
At this point, I think, if 2 years back, if you would have asked me that you are going to attend an UN COP, I would have said, what, Karen, it's not possible, because I've only, first time I've known about this conference was when, that young girl, Greta Thunberg, and she made news at that point of time. And that was when I heard about this. And I would really like to thank Saifur, because it was during his presidency, everyone started talking about climate change, and we started this climate and sustainability task force. And I still remember the team was looking for climate specialists, sustainability specialist, and communication specialist. And I thought to myself, what does it mean to be a climate specialist? Or what is sustainability specialist? I was like, I don't think I check either of the boxes. So I thought it is safer to jump into the communication specialist. And that's how I got in. And then slowly I started to learn. So Sajid was the chair of the committee. He was involved in the last 10 to 15 years. He has worked with UN. And he got us, so he already knew few people in the international agencies, and he made sure that he built that connection. So today we are interacting with the international agencies. I don't think it would have been possible to even directly approach them as a youth. So IEEE and IEEE Young Professional is giving space to everyone. It is giving that the point where you can contact or get in touch with these people to get the things done. So I feel that it's a great pleasure to have been part of this team, and everyone has been doing great work. Anyway, even before this started, we had this humanitarian activities happening. I met one of the youth who was from Jordan. And I only came to know because I was a panelist in that session, and he said that, oh, even I'm representing IEEE, but we didn't know that there were more people from IEEE. But they're joining somehow from, they're coming there to these kind of conferences. They're like, we did a project in Jordan where they used cycles to provide electricity to the refugee camps. So people are doing things. It's just that we are not well connected, or the IEEE is huge, spread out everywhere, right? So how do we connect all the young people and youth who are working towards this? Things has been happening. So, but we still need to push more and more youth into these spaces. We need capacity building sessions. So that is what we have been also pushing with the international agencies as well. They have been providing us spaces, but it's now the right time to make use of the context that we have regionally, sectionally, student branch chapters, and just connect with them to the right people.
Thank you. So, Wei-Jen, I know, and Babu mentioned this, the CEET, which is the UN Secretary General's Council of Engineers for Energy Transition, with both you and Babu sit on. It's again, it's a high-level body of engineers and energy system experts that contribute to the UN Secretary General's goal of building a coalition to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. And it has an aim, right, to advise on engineering pathways to achieve decarbonization, excuse me, by mid-century. So, what is your, from, sitting in that seat and being also a very, active person in IEEE and standards and other technology areas, what do you see the role of IEEE is in contributing to addressing decarbonization and other climate-related challenges?
Well, thank you. And this is my third year to serve as a member of the seat. And when I look at it, it's basically look back the 3 years ago, started from the CCI-RCC within the IEEE, and then up to the today's activity right now within the IEEE. And I think we are in a much better position to assist the climate change mitigation and adaptation issues. And during the COP29, I always think about, okay, well, when a lot of discussion, they stop at science. And a lot of time we talk about in the IEEE, we have a IEEE data port. And I thought, okay, what can we do from the IEEE data point of view? Is basically we provide the information, and then what's next? So this is basically something that the IEEE can do. And then on the other one is a lot of technology, they propose the technology. I'm involved in the FDC, the Future Direction Committee, SUSTEC initiative. I'm the co-chair of the SUSTEC initiative. And then when I look at this one here, a lot of technology that our member propose, it's very excellent technologies. However, that we need something on the standard point of view, because when you try to do something, that is basically you have to, as an engineer, we always focus on the technology. However, for the future engineer, we have to also look at the economics. We also look at the policy, because for example, we discussed the marine carbon dioxide removal. And they have a lot of technology. They propose a lot of technology over there. However, when you try to look at it, it's basically how can we convert or transform into a business case? Because if they're basically the industry that if they cannot have a financial incentive or have some foreseeable return on investment, they are not going to invest into the technologies. And in the future, all the technology has to be self-sustained. So on the IEEE side, standard development become very important. Actually right now we are talking about MRV, the measurement, reporting, and validation. So on this way here, on that way, then we can talk about basically how can we develop the financial models. Yeah, the people also, for the other example, on the generation side, people talk about the CCS. And I always argue that if you don't have the usage, then you don't have a business model. And then that is basically that is now going to create an industry or create a business sector for this one. So this is basically something as an engineer, we not only focus on the technology, we also have to look at it, technical feasibility and the readiness, and then also the scalability, because I understand a lot of climate change issue is a local, we focus on the local, and how can we develop the co-benefit model that can be accepted by the policymaker, create incentive, and for the stakeholder to buy in and the customer to buy in. And then, of course, you also have to look at it, okay, on the impact assessment. That is basically how to create a measurable in the outcome. So it's basically you try, and also we also look at it. We have a limited resource on Earth. How can we develop a product with the life cycle analysis or circular economy in mind when we try to develop that? So this is basically, and of course the other one is the people talk about the Saifur also look at participate in the digital transformation, and how can we use AI or IoT or machine learning technology to improve the sustainability or transform the current industry into the more sustainable environment. That is, yeah. And then, of course, the other one is on education. IEEE focus on the education side, and this is also a very important one. And actually, Babu and I, we are developing a battery storage that tutorial for the IEEE Education Committee, and this is part of the effort that we try to basically look at it from the climate change mitigation and adaptation point of view.
Excellent. I think that's a really nice transition also over to you, Babu, when we talk about what Wei-Jen was referring to as, the various aspects, technical solutions, business models. So, what are the current energy storage technologies, specifically based on that last example that Wei-Jen mentioned, currently supporting the grid, and what role do they play in renewable energy integration and decarbonization goals?
Yeah, if you look at where we are with the integration of storage in the grid, a lot of activity is going on around technologies that are commercial and bankable. That's the first thing. So that brings to what is available. Most of the projects getting deployed are based on lithium-ion batteries, and that's a technology which matured from consumer electronics to EVs, and now the grid. And we are basically utilizing the same base technology and building into large plants. And if you look back maybe 10 years ago, a megawatt size battery plant would have been considered as demonstration. Now, people are building large scale, hundreds of megawatts, as big as a gigawatt size storage technology. So we come into the maturation of energy storage. Battery-based energy storage is one type of storage, but there is lots of other storage too. Thermal storage, pumped hydro, those are all happening. And we need more of storage because, if we want to support the renewable integration and decarbonization goals of, getting to, let's say, decarbonize the electricity system by 2050, we are transforming a large system, and the amount of storage you need is, humongous. I mean, let's say globally, we got about 8 terawatts of grid capacity. And if you want to transform the 8 terawatts of grid capacity, how much storage do you need? So we are beginning the process of deploying storage, and that's going to accelerate. And storage becomes central for all the things that we want to do. So decarbonize the grid, electrification of the transportation requires storage, and providing energy access to people who don't have electricity at this point, that also relies on renewables and storage.
So I'm going to stay with you here a little bit, Babu, for another sort of continuation of that, and then we'll kind of loop back to some of the other speakers here. But what are the lessons learned from energy storage deployment in the U.S., and how might these approaches be adapted or expanded in other regions?
I think policy is important. I mean, if you look at where storage is heavily deployed in the U.S., it started mostly in California, Hawaii, and those tend to be expensive energy markets. So there you could bring in new technology at a small scale and help the industry to grow comfortable in deploying new technologies. with a reasonably good policy framework where companies can deploy them without losing money, right? So projects have to be bankable. That's one thing. And the policy framework has to be accommodative for bringing new technologies so that the utilities can take a risk. So that happened over the last 10 years or so, primarily in California. Now it's catching up everywhere. And if you go from California to Texas, which is a deregulated market, it's all driven by cost of storage becoming cheaper enough so that you can actually firm up all the wind. So that's one part. So the technology is important, but I think the policy and the markets are important. If you don't have a market for a company to bid into, that technology won't take off. That's one lesson I think that needs to be carried through, because technology itself is not going to bring changes unless we make the technology affordable and deployable at large scale.
So what do you think some of the main impediments are to accelerate the development or deployment, I should say, of grid change?
Well,
Storage.
I think, storage is still relatively more expensive. That's one. Okay, we need to bring the cost of storage cheaper. And for the grid at large, as we want to decarbonize at a much higher level than where we are today, then we have gaps. We don't have storage technologies that can do 24 hours or 3 days or 6 days. And so we need longer duration. So right now, most of the storage we have is 4 to 8 hours. So we can potentially do diurnal firming up all the renewables. But beyond that, we don't have the technologies that can do longer duration. So longer duration is a gap. Mm. And cost is significant. I mean, storage is deployable in developed countries where energy markets are established and potentially slightly higher cost. And if you want to translate the same storage technology to developing countries or places where there is no electricity infrastructure, then the cost of storage has to be much cheaper than where we are. That's one. And then right now, most of the battery manufacturing is limited to few places. So if you want to localize deployments on a global scale, you need to have capacity building, both in manufacturing and supply chains in most locations where we're going to deploy.
Great, thank you. So Wei-Jen, I'm going to loop back to you because based on, we're talking about some energy storage, technical matters here. IEEE is also a technical standards developer, and I know you've been deeply involved in standards work. So, in addition to your research in renewable energy and power systems and, hearing a little bit about battery storage, can you share your perspective on sort of the role of standards and how standardization or standards can help address, I think, some of the impediments or challenges that Babu might have been speaking to?
Yeah, basically, okay, from the storage point of view, and then we try to look at the policy and the regulation and also the standard. Because on the standard side, that you try to look at it from the technical point of view, as Babu mentioned, that the storage, we are going to have actually, when you look at the battery storage system, they are going to have a different application in the power system. So for example, you try to look at the long range, it's more focused on the energy side. And what you consider as a long duration and what kinds of capability, what kinds of response they require to basically get into the market. So this is one thing. And then for the short-term one, for example, you try to do the frequency response or you try to do the voltage support. Then what kinds of response rate and basically the response speed that is considered that is required to support the grid. So these are all on the standard side. And then the other one is basically we didn't discuss on this panel so far is on the hydrogen side. Because when you try to produce the hydrogen by itself is a carrier. So when you look at it, how can we produce the hydrogen in the most efficient way? And then are you going to look at the green hydrogen, blue hydrogen, or gray hydrogen, or pink hydrogen? Then how can we define that one? And then I think that basically I'm involved in the IEEE from Michael Lucan, that we are talking about how can we establish a standard on the hydrogen side. And because the other one is, okay, how can we utilize in the utilize hydrogen in the generation or production sectors. For example, you try to look at the hydrogen blended natural gas and how can we reduce. This is also the technology and also the regulation side. So this is basically they are, as I have mentioned, when you try to look at this, from the technology, from the IEEE point of view, we are not just to look at the technology, we also have to look at the feasibility and the readiness and the economic viability. So you also try to look at the impact assessment, because yes, a lot of time when we develop the technology, we also have to look at whether we are going to create some negative impact or not, and how can we solve the problem. For example, we produce the renewable energy and we use a lot of land, and basically will that impact the agriculture product. So when the population of the earth increase, and then how can we feed with the lesser land space and produce enough food for the people. So this is basically when we try to solve the problem, we have to solve the problem from the system level.
So speaking of that, and I know in some of our calls leading up to this session, and noting that COP 29, was sort of billed as the COP of finance. How do we make these climate solutions, I guess, or technical approaches or solutions tangible or scalable? You look at it through that lens of technology, scalability, and then sort of the political will, or the financing that might be needed there. And what do you think maybe IEEE can help with that?
Yeah, this is the technology side. Actually, several years ago, and we have the CET, the CET, and the IEEE SA has joined several conference calls, discussed how can IEEE help. And one is on the technology side. So when you look at it, basically technology IEEE can help from the three approach. The first one is basically from the financial side, because a lot of proposal come from the vendor, come from the country, and they ask for the finance from the regional banking system or the World Bank. And then from the IEEE point of view, we really can help to evaluate whether they are technically feasible, or what is the readiness of the technology and what kinds of risk that will be involved. So this is on the financial end, because I have involved in several discussions. A lot of banking system, they refuse to finance large scale basically project, especially on the renewable energy side, because basically they evaluate the risk. So how can IEEE provide a technical support from there? The other one is for the government to select the vendor to implement the project. So with basically the IEEE, the local chapter, they can basically, based on the local different situation, that provide assistance on this. So they can basically evaluate whether the proposal is feasible or not, or also look at it whether they are going to provide some impact. As for example, when we try to look at a lot of implementation, you have to look at environmental and impact study. And we also can help the vendor or the manufacturer to develop a feasible solution. So that is basically depends on how can we structure IEEE become basically, we always tell people IEEE is the technology know-how. However, how can we transform this technology know-how become a helping hand? That is basically, that's the key.
Fantastic, thank you. So, Sneha, from the young professional perspective, how can we get young professionals more meaningfully involved in sort of this work? When you talk about climate and sustainability issues, the different core environments that we're having these discussions, but how we can get them, sort of, I guess, engaged, but also, for their professional development, but also, to, sort of bring to fruition, if you will, address some of these challenges, scalability and whatnot, and how we can help educate, if you will, or contribute to, what is sort of an adaptable or scalable solution?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Karen. So I believe that it's not necessary that you need to go to the conferences like COP to be able to contribute as a youth. You can do it right from where you are. You can start it very small, and IEEE has the capability of providing all the solutions and options that you need to contribute to the society, and it's about giving back to the humanity, right? So that's what it says, serving the humanity. All the help that you have got in IEEE, the technological advancements that we have done, how can we give back to the society? So I have two examples to give. So at the beginning of the year, when we were involved with this pre-COP sessions, there was also another topic about clean cooking. This was mostly a topic that was raised in Africa. So how for the past 20-30 years, they know that this problem has been, it's not just in Africa, but also in the other global south as well. People still don't have a proper cooking methodologies, but how it is more affecting towards the African region, and they were raising money for this cause. So they saw that in issues like these and the climate change, again, the women and children are the first one to be impacted. And again, why I'm talking about this, women and children, they spend hours together to gather the wood, and they can't go to school, and somehow their education is delayed. So people die, and this I don't remember exact number, but it was in millions of women die every year because of this. So I have a team member in DIS, for example, and she is a high school student, and she just started her engineering. And I just talked to her, and I told my team members, everyone, that hey, look, you guys can come up with the community project. So just let me know if you have any projects in mind. We can make that happen. And she came up with the project, Karen. She wanted to make education feasible for the female students in one of the very small regions in Kenya. And I was really surprised because the kind of thoughts that she has, it was very mature. I was like, she was mature even before her age. How is that possible? Because they go through these situations firsthand. They know what are the difficulties that they have, because she has gone through it, and she doesn't want the other students or the females who are in her region to go through the same thing. So no one can know their region better than yourself. So I am from India, from south of India. Right now I'm based in France, so I cannot talk about a country in the Middle East or Africa. So the best thing that youth can contribute is locally. So she recognized that they needed something, that she can do something for the local students. So they started a program. And what we did was, for example, I'm involved with Computer Society and also this dielectrics and electrical insulation. So it has nothing to do with the technical societies here. But these technical societies, they want to help. So what I did was making a collaborative project with this technical society to do something for the community. So we can give them the capacity building session. So this is just one example. So I'm just imagining what could be the IEEE has so much of capacity. If youth can come forward and take up a small project like this, which they can do it locally, you need not do a global impact to be, contributing to the climate change. If every one of the IEEE youth takes up this as their, personal project, or they want to give back to the society, we can change a lot. So I think that's why I'm keep pushing. We want to push more and more youth people to contribute to the whatever they are doing. Just let us know what exactly is needed. Maybe we can sort it out. So this is another thing that we noticed, that every youth constituency is saying that we have problem with that, this and that. So another thing we realize is solution lies within ourselves. It's just that we don't have that proper table where all the youth constituencies can come together and discuss about what exactly is the problem that we have and how exactly can we contribute. IEEE, we have the technical experts. We have mentors who are here for more than, I don't know, 50 years. For example, my mentor is John McDonald. He is in IEEE for more than 52 years. It's just great to hear from such experienced people. I mean, where can we get this kind of opportunity, right? So IEEE is making it possible. So we just call for all these youth constituencies that come and work with us. If we can do something, it is great.
Thank you for that. So Saifur, I'm gonna go over to you now because I know because I'm thinking about opportunities for IEEE in COP specifically, but outside of COP. So really love to hear your perspective on everything that we sort of talked about and where we can sort of take this.
Well, piggyback on Sneha just said, the good ideas, some are already happening. I used to be the Power Energy Society president. We have a program there. We ask all chapters of PES, all over the world, submit a proposal, 5-10K budget to do what you can do in your neighborhood to promote IEEE and PES. And they get 10-15 proposals and they're funded from 5 to up to 20K. The example that Sneha just gave is happening, but people don't know that. I would like IEEE climate change people to know this is a resource from Power Energy. IES, Wei-Jen is here, has similar examples. So our biggest challenge is we don't communicate. A lot of things we do, the world doesn't know we do this. So first is communication. Second, piggyback question. I have an text message from Professor Cicero Martelli in Brazil. He said he would like to know how he can help IEEE to be more visible in Belém. I should thank the organizer of this meeting to have this opportunity that is happening in real time. So I told him I was meeting, give me your WhatsApp number. I'll call him after this meeting and get it going. So this is my thing from day one. Engage our sections and chapters globally, in this case, Brazil, to tell the policymakers what we can do. I'm just turn the phone off. Give me a second. What we can do, and we are here. We have staff support for climate change. We have volunteer support. The challenge is let them talk to each other. So that's how I would like to see we go forward. And finally, IEEE, as you may know, IEEE board has approved a committee on climate sustainability effective January next year with budget. So we have resources and they'll 2 staff people will be assigned for this committee. So we are blessed with resources, both manpower resource, staff resource, as well as funding, and a lot of good ideas. So again, I would like to call all of us here that please give the ideas to us. Don't ask, where can I find the money? I said in many cases, and Sneha knows this, money can be found. Money should not be the deciding factor. If that was the case, we don't have Google today. We don't have Facebook today. We don't have those things. Money came later. Money idea comes first. Give me the ideas, I will find the money. That's my problem. Thank you.
So with that, Charlie, I think we want to hand it over to any questions that our participants, our audience might have. I know, I think there are some in the chat, but I think we saw that we're supposed to put them in the Q&A. So I'm going to look to our technical assistant people here to see if I've missed anyone. Does anyone want to speak, or should I just read them from the chat?
I think reading them from the chat would be the best thing.
Okay.
Choose the ones that you think are worthwhile.
Okay, so we have the comment. I'm just looking, there's some comments in here. So there was a question about were there any discussions about nuclear power for base power with zero emissions? I know that's a sort of a sensitive topic, but we do hear that nuclear, especially with the newer technologies, can be a great help to some of the challenges.
Let me address that. I do research in that topic. My PhD was on nuclear power plant operation. So Both in Dubai and here, this time in Baku, the nuclear people had a very strong presence. They are talking about zero carbon electricity, which is true. With the history of Fukushima, Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, a lot of press against large nuclear. So this is the difference now. Small modular nuclear plants, 60 megawatt, 100 megawatt, 200 megawatt size, not 1200 megawatt size. They are safe by design. They don't need to be cooled if the accident happens. They can self-cool themselves. But the challenge is they are at least 5 years away, if not longer, from commercialization. A couple of US companies have received US government approval for designing it, not building, designing it, technical design review happening. US is playing a big role, so is China, Russia, even Argentina has a program on nuclear, small nuclear reactors. So my answer is, yes, this is being talked about, but this will take some time. And I told the developers in Baku this time, be careful, don't go too fast, because if there is an accident, the thing is dead forever. We can't make a mistake twice. It's dead forever. And they know that. There's a lot of testing. The group in Oak Ridge, in fact, that is doing work in this field. So answer is, yes, it is a possibility. It'll take some time. But like Wei-Jen said, what is in between? We cannot just shut everything down. So that is the issue of solar, wind, storage, some advanced gas turbines. Things are happening today. So we cannot say, I saw in Dubai, shut down all coal plants. Not possible. Today we have over 1,500 coal plants, power plants in operation. Can't shut them down. To be realistic, my final answer is, whatever you do, it has to be innovative, has to be scalable and affordable. So if it's not affordable in terms of money or technology, it is not going to take off. End of the day, private sector, well, as Wei-Jen said, has to be the primary driver in this, not governments. So they want affordability, they want reliability, and they want public acceptance. So those are the three criteria I would put forward. Thank you, Karen.
Well, thank you. Wei-Jen, Babu?
That basically, okay, I echo with the Saifur's basically discussion. And I'll bring one more aspect, because the nuclear, when we operate the nuclear power plant, then in the US and in France, we have a totally different approach. Okay, so in the US, we consider nuclear as a base load. They produce fixed output. In France, they do a little bit on the load following side. So they move up and down on the generation. So when we consider the small modular reactor, that is basically how are we going to operate that nuclear power plant. This is the one consideration we have, because if we try to use it into the local industry, the load can vary. So how can we use the nuclear to accommodate the load variation? The other one is the people that in mind is the safety issue, because when you put the nuclear next to the facility, and the nuclear by itself, the small modular reactor by itself, is a radioactive material. So how can we ensure that basically the safety operation, that it doesn't become a dirty bomb when people steal it? And then what kinds of security is required? So this is something that we need from the technology side, from the policy side. We have to define it clear, and what kinds of environment, what kinds of setup is required, what kinds of regulation is required in order to promote this technology.
Thank
But
you.
Karen, if I can comment on a couple.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
Go for
So,
it.
I mean, if you look at the energy transition for renewables, one of the constraints is a transmission capacity constraint, bringing that renewables from sites which are far out from urban centers where the load is. That's where a lot of the small modular reactors are people looking at how do you actually provide base load for urban areas. That's where the loads are. And also for all the new capacity that's coming on from the data centers and other things where you need to bring in significant new capacity in dense urban areas. So for deploying SMRs, some of the main challenges are in the policy considerations and public buy-in. I think, there is a lot of apprehension on bringing in either large nuclear or small nuclear into dense areas. How do you convince the public on the safety and engineering aspects of these systems is one area I think, that is very important. Because if SMRs and some of the nuclear is going to come in, those are going to be in locations where very difficult to bring in renewables. And they can play a significant role in providing the capacity needed.
So related to that, we also have a question on what energy storage technologies are the most promising from our earlier discussion as part of this session that we were having. We talked about energy storage. So anyone want to sort of tackle that question?
Yeah, if you look at energy storage, a lot of the storage technology is currently driven by transportation sector. I mean, the EV business is what is driving the technology. And we are leveraging the same technology for the grid. So in the EV space is all lithium batteries of one sort or other. Primarily now everybody is moving towards lithium iron phosphate. It's slightly cheaper and potentially safer than the other lithium technologies based on the nickel systems. So the driver for a lot of the energy storage is primarily driven by EVs, and that's going to pan out into the grid space. And are there any other new technologies? Most of the work is somewhat incremental, not foundational breakthroughs. How to make the technology cheaper? How do you build systems? Because if you look at EVs, 100 kilowatts is a big enough system. For the grid, you got to modularly build up much larger system. So there's a lot of engineering beyond the battery itself, and standardization and bringing the better engineering practices to build larger plants is one of the areas where you get a significant cost advantages.
Thank you. So
those are technology agnostic in many ways because you have to build systems.
So looking at everything we sort of discussed so far, we're talking about youth perspective, capacity building, education, technology solutions, scalability, finance. So one final question for all of you what do you envision for IEEE at COP30 in Brazil as we sort of navigate this, and now that we have starting next year a formal structure around climate work, as Saifur was sharing with us. And, there's a lot of momentum and a lot of great activities across IEEE going on in this space, to where we can really contribute and make some significant difference. So I'd just love to hear your respective perspectives on that. And I'm going to start with Sneha.
Thanks, Karen. So I was just thinking about the question you just asked. So we have started preparing even for the COP31 as well. We want to involve more and more young people locally. So we are trying to activate. It's a good way to activate the region as well, the sections, because it's Australia, New Zealand. We don't see a lot of activities happening. So right now we have started getting in touch with them even for the COP31. And for the COP30, before that, this year I mentioned to you earlier as well. So we had the Clean Energy Ministerial G20 happening this year. So a lot of important activities are happening this year, which is leading to the COP30 next year. So Brazil is really at the focal point. So a lot of students are interested. They have asked us questions, how can we get involved? So we are in touch with all the student branch chapters. We had students turning up from more than 3 to 4 student branch chapters who traveled 8-9 hours overnight just for one day event, and they found it very interesting, and getting them involved in these kinds of events and as I said, who would know the region better than the local students, right? What is happening in the region? They know it very well. And so yeah, we are trying to get them involved locally, especially if we can get as many students as possible. I think Wei-Jen also mentioned that we can get more people to the green zone, which was quite different to I think COP 28. It was much more easier. You get a day pass earlier, but this time it was much more different compared to the last year for some reason. But yeah, the idea would be to get them involved, and if they can see what is happening in this climate spaces, or how we can involve them, that would be our motivation for the next year.
So Wei-Jen, thinking of COP30, what do you envision for IEEE?
I think that one thing that we have to bring the technology to the upfront, because a lot of time you see the COP basically it's more like a policy talk and the regulation, and then they touch the financial. However, they don't really involve the real technology side. So from the IEEE point of view, I think that Saifur and the Tariq's effort is very good, that we try to promote the technology day. However, on our side, we also have to prepare ourselves, because from the IEEE point of view, yes, we have the committee, we have the ad hoc, and then try to consolidate all the effort together. However, we also have to show what can we offer on the different issue. So this year we should identify, look at the COP20, historically what the topics have been discussed in the COP, and how can IEEE bring the solution to the table. And then when the technology day happen, then how can we display our result and our effort, the technology readiness, and how can we create a good financial model that the business can get in. In the 27, in addition to the green zone and blue zone, they also have an innovation zone. So I don't know in COP 30, are they going to have an innovation zone or not? So that is the more like, okay, what is the upcoming technology in the future, and then how can IEEE play the role?
Babu, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, if you look at mitigating climate change and adapting our energy system to reduce all the effects, electricity is going to be central, right? And that's as a society, electricity is central to everything in IEEE. We have members globally in all the companies, especially in the power system, engineering, and the industry. And getting the industry members engaged locally is probably going to be very important for us, because change has to happen where the greatest amount of effort is happening. Let's say in the power systems, computing, and all the places where the decarbonization need to occur. And those are the change drivers. And those are the folks we need to bring in at a larger scale. And also, I think, the broader discussion within IEEE and the climate, it needs to bring the societies and the technical committees in the societies broadly engaged, because a lot of the standards activities, local engagement happens through those bodies.
Thank you. And Saifur, I know you've been such a driving force behind our climate work and getting to us where we are today. So if you think about COP30, what's sort of your vision for IEEE moving into that space next year?
I have a two-step approach, top-down, bottom-up. Let me talk bottom-up first. I would like to see we engage our IEEE sections and chapters in Brazil in this discussion, and I've started discussion already with some of them, so that they can go to their officials, policymakers, and some of them work in government anyway to begin with, and tell them how IEEE is relevant to COP30's success in terms of content, presentations, and involving indigenous people's lives. That is very important for Brazilian delegation here. That's bottom up. That will happen in the next few weeks. Second is top down. As most of you know, we have a conference coming up in Geneva in 2 weeks, I guess exactly, less than 2 weeks, on climate resilience part jointly with UN agency called International Telecom Union. We've invited a Brazilian delegation to be in that conference, and they are coming, I expect, and that will give us or give me and our delegation a one-to-one opportunity to work with the Brazilian delegation, showcase, because they'll be at that meeting for 2 days, what is IEEE, how IEEE engages with global agencies like UN and so on. So they have more, I guess, credibility about IEEE's ability to deliver. That's important, credibility to deliver, not just talk about it. So I'm hoping that interaction in Geneva in 10 days from now will give us an opportunity to talk to the Brazil delegation and Brazilian ambassador in Geneva as well, so that we can be a force for change. And then involving our sections, chapters in Brazil to be our front people to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. So I know we only have a few minutes left here, so I want to extend a tremendous thank you to our speakers and panelists today for all your insights and perspectives. We definitely are looking forward to COP30 and beyond. So with that, Charlie, I'm going to hand it over to you. Or are there any details we need to take care of before we close here?
No, I think that's great. We have 3 more days coming up. We'll be posting material. Some of the materials already posted, as you can see. I want to thank you, Karen, for organizing a great panel, and I want to thank all the panelists who are here. It was very interesting. Thank you.